got a real bad spot here.
This morning it came in a thunder.
Tends to make me a little bit sick to my stomach.
It's just devastating.
You need to evacuate. You need to evacuate this area.
1997, a year for the record books. After a season of record-breaking snowfall, nearly 10 feet all told, spring brought us heavy rain, an ice storm, and our 8th blizzard of the season,
which led up to April's epic flooding in the Red River Valley. Take a look back at this historic flood through the eyes of the News Center 6 team. To understand the flood of 1997, let's take a look at the winter of 1996 with John Wheeler.
There are tales told by those who've been here many years of winters when the elements of snow, wind, and cold came together with such intensity and regularity that it became a struggle just to survive. Such winters are known as old-fashioned winters. But after the winter of 1996-97, the standard has changed. From the first snowfall on November 15th through the last wet flurries in mid-May, an amazing 117 inches of snow was measured in Fargo-Moorhead. Blizzard warnings were issued 8 times, and there were at least half a dozen other serious winter storms. The highlights? 13.5 inches of snow with blizzard-force winds on November 16th and 17th. 26.4 inches of snow had fallen by the end of November, and things were just getting started. Another 20.4 inches fell during December, including a 3-day blizzard from the 16th to the 18th that interfered with final exams and holiday plans. On Christmas morning, it was 27 below, with the snowpack a 1.5 feet deep. In January, the real blitz began. 4 blizzards in 2.5 weeks left drifts up to 18 feet high. A total of 28.6 inches of snow would fall during the month. A winter minimum of 30 degrees below zero was recorded on the 26th. In February, we got a break. There were no blizzards and only 8 inches of snow, but March roared in with a vengeance. 15.5 inches of snow fell on the 4th in the winter's 7th blizzard. On the morning of March 5th, it was 22 degrees below zero, and the average depth of the snow was a record 32 inches. Total snowfall for March, 26.2 inches. But the winter saved its best for last. A devastating rain and ice storm turned into the 8th blizzard on April 6th. 7.4 more inches of April snow completed the 117-inch barrage, breaking the previous snowfall record by over 2 feet. Although we all wanted spring to arrive, there was a sense of foreboding of what the spring would bring.
By mid-morning, the work had begun. Dump trucks carrying dirt, the cats helping form the dike, which will soon ring the town of Harwood, North Dakota. The Corps has directed the builders to go to 894.5, a little higher on the other side of town, 895. The Corps and the city say even though we have so much snow, now is the time to build.
Fargo Operations Manager Dennis Wallaker says they're trying to stay ahead of the flood game, and the snow still on the ground is giving them the time they need.
We have time to do that, and we're taking advantage of that. We're not doing any diking yet. We'll pull that trigger as soon as possible when we think it's necessary.
Closed roads are a familiar sight here in Wilkin County. In fact, 50 to 75 locations are small streams instead of roadways. While there is a lot of water on the move here, about 30% of the ground is still snow-covered, which means more water is on the way.
Gain in volume as it works its way to the rivers, and of course it's going to cause problems with the rivers. There's a lot of things coming together, several different river systems and drainage systems that are coming together that are going to meet in Breckenridge. Their 18 or 18.5 foot predictions appear to us to be pretty close.
The old-timers in Castleton say they have never seen anything like this, what seems like square miles of rushing water, frantically searching for a place to go. Roads have disappeared, ditches are full, and so are the fields. The sheer power of water is clear.
This is WDAY News Center 6.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a wet day throughout the region. It's going to get worse.
And meteorologist John Wheeler joins us now with the details. John?
And the primary storm will then work out in our direction tonight, tomorrow night, and probably move through the area and beyond by Sunday. So it's going to be all weekend long we'll be battling this storm.
People in Wahpeton Breckenridge are frantically sandbagging and diking to head off the rising water there. The crest is coming sooner and is higher than earlier projections.
Breckenridge city leaders say they should be able to hold back the waters at the new higher projection, but the adverse weather scheduled this weekend makes today's sandbagging more important, and it makes the waiting game even more intense.
At this hour, the Minnesota National Guard is on the way to Breckenridge for flood help and possible evacuation. In Fargo, the pace has been fast and furious, but the job got done. Work is finished now on the 2nd Street and Oak Street dikes, which provide major protection for City Hall and other parts of the north side. They will protect Fargo to a level of 38.5 feet.
It's as if we're looking down the barrel of a gun. The Red River Valley and surrounding areas are threatened by a winter storm, torrential rain, river flooding, and overland flooding. Good evening, everyone. It's an emergency situation for the entire valley and surrounding areas.
Well, Austin, as you can see, it's just miserable here. The winds are blowing, the rain is coming down, and it's been like this pretty much all day. And that, of course, is adding to the water problems for the people in the Wahpeton-Breckenridge area.
But if we get the crest that the National Weather Service said of 20 feet, we're going to lose something, and we just can't handle that kind of water here in Breckenridge.
Also in Fargo, Dennis Wallaker is advising all homes with deep basements to plug your drains immediately. An ice storm has brought the northern end of the valley to a virtual standstill. One power company spokesman says it's the worst ice storm he's seen in 20 years. He says because of icy conditions, it's taking a long time for crews to get to the lines and repair them. Now, the miserable conditions outside made for a treacherous rescue today in Clay County. Nigel Amundsen and photographer Stacy Anderson have more from Sabin.
This is flooded farmland outside Sabin, Minnesota.
Boy, I don't know.
Clay County officials braved the rough lake-like conditions to rescue people. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, never. Never been this high before.
We'd like to get them out of there during the daylight if they would call us. We're trying to contact the ones we can that we know where they live and so on, and see if they want to get out of there before the blizzard hits.
What makes rescues like this really difficult is that it's water over land, making the currents very treacherous.
Going from bad to worse. What else can we say? Weather's next.
If a spring flood wasn't enough, how about heavy rain, an ice storm, power outages, and maybe a blizzard? It's a weekend of terror in the Red River Valley. Good evening, everyone. If we can survive this, we can survive anything. With water pouring into our communities and sometimes into our homes, the region is hit with an ice storm and now faces what could be its 8th blizzard of the year.
Austin, this storm has just paralyzed the valley. The weight of the ice, the strength of the wind, and the near blizzard conditions in many parts caused downlines all over the region.
This storm could not have come at a worse time. A state of emergency has already been declared in Breckenridge, as well as a flash flood warning.
It's like adding insult to injury down here in Wahpeton-Breckenridge, trying to fight rising rivers in the middle of a rainstorm. But the worst is still to come. With the crest still a day or two away, the people here are making last-minute adjustments, holding tight, and waiting for this to pass.
The Red River Valley is brought to its knees this weekend. The 8th blizzard of the year follows one of the worst ice storms in recent memory, knocking power out to thousands of people in the region. All this while trying to fight what could be the flood of the century. Good evening, everyone. What's next? We are experiencing history at its worst in the valley.
In whiteout conditions, a pelting snow and bone-chilling wind, linemen found it nearly impossible to get customers back online in the region.
Something else. High water fighting floods one day. It's amazing.
Over 5,000 customers with Cass Electric have been in the dark today.
Flood preparations basically have stopped for the day. I mean, there's nothing we can do out there. We can't haul dirt, we can't sandbag, we can't get volunteers in. Volunteer center is shutting down.
And there is flooding in Ada right now. Homes are being flooded, and as the emergency services officer told us, he says they're basically being hit from 2 sides of town.
No one here in Ada, Minnesota ever imagined the flood would bring this town to her knees like this. Battling sub-zero temperatures, they rode in the buckets of tractors and heavy equipment. National Guard troops on their rescue missions sometimes had to travel through streets plowing through ice chunks and deep floodwaters that at times are now chest high. The people of Ada the past 48 hours have lived through a raging blizzard, power outages, and now the biggest surprise of all, the out-of-control wild rice.
It went from worse to worser.
In Ada, some can only get around in boats.
The cities of Wahpeton and Breckenridge are trying to recover from this weekend's flood disaster. Hundreds of people in both communities were forced from their homes when a torrential rain of nearly 3 inches hit the area at the peak of the spring runoff.
This is the worst flood in the history of Wahpeton and Breckenridge. Slowly, these communities will heal, but for now, the pain is deep.
It's heartbreaking. It's like losing a loved one.
There are about 100 people here in Castleton that are calling the school here their home. This city is looking at Friday before they have electricity, and they have 2 days of water reserves left.
To the power outage story, and a dramatic comment late this afternoon from Governor Ed Schaefer. He says if all of us don't cut back on power use, there is a real possibility of a statewide blackout.
As you can see, we're flying 2 and 3 miles here where you have maybe 1 or 2 poles standing. And it's going to take immense amounts of manpower and equipment to bring this back up to what it was before. It tends to make me a little bit sick to my stomach. It's depressing.
Meantime, work resumes now in the 5 neighborhoods identified as trouble spots. Fargo Operations Manager Dennis Wallaker says this is definitely crunch time.
72 hours to do what we thought we had 5 days to do it. So this is a critical time between now and Thursday noon.
In rural Cragness, Minnesota, a helicopter from the State Patrol had to be called in to rescue about a dozen people today. That's because the Buffalo River had trapped many in their homes.
For people in the Cragness area, getting on the helicopter was like a ride to freedom.
The water that isn't running is freezing, and we can't get to the river itself where the current is keeping it open. There's no way for us to get in by boat or any other way.
Without the state helicopter, there's no telling how long these people would have been stranded.
Pole by pole, wire by wire, power is slowly returning to the Red River Valley and surrounding areas.
Power companies are bringing in hundreds of crews to try to get the electricity back on, but it is a difficult and painstaking job. Reporter Austin Schauer is live at a repair site near Mapleton. Austin?
Marva, Naja, we may hate this cold weather, especially in the month of April, but it's the one bright spot in this huge effort to restore power. The freezing weather has helped stabilize many of the roads, allowing crews to get to the work sites and, of course, get their work done. However, the bad news is the damage is far worse than anyone thought. Officials from Cass County Electric say initially they thought they had about 600 poles down. Now they believe it's at least 1,500.
This is probably an event of historic magnitude, I guess would be the best way of putting it. It's beyond comprehension. Be patient and make plans to be out of power probably in the rural areas, rural communities possibly for a week or a little more.
In Ada, the National Guard patrolled the streets, now filled with ice, not water. From the air today, you begin to see the magnitude of this natural disaster. Nearly 1,000 people have been evacuated and now face the grim news that the city of Ada may not open its doors for days.
Conditions are extremely rough in rural West Fargo.
Many families are without power and having a difficult time getting to their homes.
On an April day that feels more like January, the Larsons are being pushed to the limit.
It's probably the worst nightmare I've ever seen. This is the 4th major flood we've been through here, and the other ones were, at this stage, a piece of cake, because at least you could fight them. The elements weren't everything against you like today, or this one has been now.
Good evening, everyone. Local athletes lending their time and efforts today to help fight the flood of 1997. 125 NDSU student athletes heading north with hopes of saving Amy Ruley's home from rising waters.
Well, this is a wild group. I'm not sure if we're doing it right, but we're getting a lot of work done in a short period of time, and I'd never be able to do it alone. We've got a lot of great helpers. Yeah, I mean, you can't get too, there's nothing you can do about it, so you can't get too upset. You just got to do what you can, try to do the best things you can, and go from there.
Good evening, everyone. The flood story in the valley tonight is focused on the Fargo-Moorhead area. Flood fighting officials are keeping a close watch at this hour on an ice jam that could raise the crest of the Red River in Fargo-Moorhead.
We certainly don't want people to get in a panic situation at this point in time. As you know, we're safe till 39 feet, 39 and a half feet now. It's possible that the river may not even get that high.
It's not time to panic. We still have time. One of the statements everybody is not looking at on this statement is that A slower release of this water from the obstruction may lower the forecasted crest.
The city of Fargo isn't taking any chances, of course. Mayor Bruce Furnace says saving the city infrastructure is the priority. All dikes are being raised to 40 feet throughout our city. The National Guard has also been called in now to help.
The rumor mill has been churning here in the FM area at an incredible rate. So we're here on the banks of the Red to pretty much set the record straight and show you where we're at. And joining me right now is Director of Operations for the City of Fargo, Dennis Wallaker. And Dennis, dispel these crest rumors that we've been hearing.
We see the crest sometime tomorrow evening, and it'll probably be well less than what the predictions are at 39 to 39.5 feet.
Some other rumors have been evacuations throughout the city. Tell us about that.
Absolutely none. The only evacuations that I have heard about is they were taking some people out of the VA hospital as a precautionary measure. There are no immediate plans for any evacuation of anybody in the city of Fargo.
At Oak Grove School, work is proceeding at a feverish pace to protect the school with a higher dike. It's a race against time, as the rising river will surely cause havoc at the school if the dike is not ready.
Well, our biggest concern, obviously, is our dike here is somewhere in the 38 to 39 foot range. But when you start having a dike that's 5 feet high, we've tried to build it right. But we've had to flood the basement of this building twice before in 69 and 79. And it's a possibility.
You worried?
Yes.
Meantime, Minnesota's top officials today say they cannot believe what they see.
The lieutenant governor has heard about it, the floodwaters that do not seem to end. So today, along with the Minnesota National Guard, Joanne Benson saw firsthand what so many people up here are suffering from. The lieutenant governor then saw firsthand what is now a ghost town, Ada, Minnesota, a small town surrounded by big ice, rivers that froze, leaving the town of Ada flooded and devastated.
The water has been quickly rising here in Oxbow, so quickly it knocked out the community's sanitary lift station overnight. Dikes around homes at this point are holding, and the battle to save the lift station is one they are winning. So far, so good.
We were fortunate that we didn't lose our power during this storm. You know, there's a lot of people worse off than us, and we realize that.
You are looking at a live picture tonight of sandbaggers in North Fargo.
The news they heard today was not good. The predicted crest of the Red River has gone up. Officials said today the Red River in Fargo could crest now at 39 to 39.5 feet tomorrow or Friday.
It's left many Fargo-Moorhead area residents scurrying to raise their dikes and prepare for the worst.
Marvin Nazwa, this scene is being repeated all over the Fargo-Moorhead area tonight. We called the Volunteer Center in downtown Fargo, and hundreds of people have turned out there, and they are being bussed all around town. We are near Oak Grove High School in North Fargo, and dozens of people basically going from house to house to house. What is it like for Dennis Wallaker, the citizen, to be driving around all over town tonight and seeing this?
It's overwhelming. I came from a small town. This is a small town effort. I mean, when the crunch time comes, Fargo has stepped up to the plate and done what is absolutely necessary. And I'm just overwhelmed by all the support for these people that live along the river and through the communities.
Well, Marvin Nazwa, we are on the outskirts of Harwood simply because you can't get into the city. Highway 29 is shut down, and we are on Highway 81, and to get there from Fargo is impossible at this point.
Things are changing so fast. The water's coming up. There's ice flows going across the water, and we're just real concerned. We hope people will just stay home, stay off the county roads at night.
Well, the Coast Guard is also on patrol in this flood-ravaged area of Harwood. The Cheyenne and Red Rivers teaming up to create a terrible mess.
They are hundreds of miles away from the ocean, but the United States Coast Guard is still making dramatic water rescues. This one right in our backyard. This chopper uses Cass County 17 as a landing pad. 6 people just north of West Fargo have given up the flood fight.
We have sandbags around the house, and we've been doing pretty good keeping it out so far, but we heard that it's supposed to go up another 1.5 feet, and we can't hold on anymore.
Even though this is the first Coast Guard rescue in this area during the flood of '97, as the water rises and more people decide to get out, a chopper might be the only way to get across the frozen flood waters.
The flood of '97 has certainly brought some bad news, but tonight a little good news for the Fargo-Moorhead area. The National Weather Service lowering its expected crest on the Red River in Fargo. They have put the crest estimate back to the earlier predicted 37.5 to 38 feet, expected sometime tomorrow.
Parts of the Oakport Township area look more like an island. The homes are surrounded by water. Getting there by foot or car is impossible, but most dikes seem to be holding. In other Oakport spots, diking is proceeding at a brisk pace, but word quickly spread of the lower river level projections, and homeowner Paul Smearud could not be happier.
Absolutely a sigh of relief. There's no question about that at all.
Life has been tough for many living in rural Norman County, trying to survive without power, their farms surrounded by ice and water.
Outside the Brian Borgen home near Pearlie, the sound of generators. They are powering the farm that has become the Motel 6 for many in the Pearlie area.
Hi, Vicki. Are you guys staying in your house during the flood?
When Debbie Borgen isn't playing the role of house mother, she is busy calling people around the township still out of power to see if they are okay, offering them a place to stay.
Just know that you can come here. Okay? Okay, bye-bye.
For those who have found comfort here, it can be emotional, knowing people are willing to open their house to everyone for days.
I don't know what we could do with them or for, but they're great.
The entire country is paying very careful attention to what's going on here, and everybody in America wants to pitch in and make certain that our nation lifts you up and works alongside you during this recovery phase.
Those words of assurance from Vice President Al Gore during his tour of our flood-ravaged region today. Good evening, everyone. The Vice President began his day in South Dakota, ended it in Wahpeton, Breckenridge.
And in between, it was Fargo.
Hey, Mr. Mayor.
Welcome, Mr. Vice President.
How are you?
Good. Glad to have you here.
Thank you very much. You all have really been through it here.
Yep.
Gore surveyed the dike with local officials and then announced a 3-point disaster relief plan for the region.
Well, from Fargo, the Vice President made his way to Breckenridge. He got into the spirit of things by shoveling about 24 sandbags along the banks of the Red and said the administration understands the depth and the scope of this disaster.
Later, it was on to the volunteer center to meet people directly involved with the flood. Many of these people have suffered huge losses. Others performed great service.
Lots of these folks have gone without much sleep. They're under a lot of stress. Many of them are out of their homes. They're worried about the future. But in spite of all of those burdens, they're just going at it full speed to help their neighbors and to help their communities.
Disaster. The headline in the local newspaper said it all today. So did the optimism. Amidst the flooding, the ice, and today's bittersweet homecoming, one sign of spring in Ada. The robins have returned. Perhaps now the healing and renewal will begin.
It's news we've been waiting to hear for several weeks now. The Red River at Fargo-Moorhead has crested, but the river's in no rush to go down anytime soon. Good evening, everyone. The flood of the century reached its record level early this morning. The Red peaking at 37.61 feet. And the National Weather Service says it will hold fairly steady at this high level for the next day or so. Now, the flood waters are causing problems north of the Fargo-Moorhead area. At this hour, the Red River is threatening North Dakota's oldest church. Reporter Tracy Briggs is standing by live via Live Star in the Gardner, North Dakota area with details. Tracy.
I'm standing on County Road 26, which is just east of Gardner. Behind me is Nora Lutheran Church. It's 123 years old, one of the oldest churches in North Dakota, and certainly the oldest Lutheran church in North Dakota. Now tonight it is being threatened by the Red River and also some overland flooding coming from every other direction.
The dike is starting to give way, and everybody here is about ready to give up, but Ken is going to go out and give it another try and see if he can firm it up a little bit. But the worst thing is this water is going to be here for many days, and there's just too much pressure there.
I think our community needs some time together to just pray together, think about what's happened together.
They came today from all over, people whose churches and homes have fallen to the flood. Religious differences meant nothing today. For in Ada, they came to lend a crutch to one another, yet at the same time, They came to this church on this Sunday searching for answers.
I don't know if God has given you a wake-up call in all of this, but I know when I got mine. I was stuck in Grand Forks in a blizzard with no human way possible to get down here. And my wife and my children were in a cold house and it was dark. And it was my daughter's birthday. And my wife was trying to drag everything out of the basement because the river was coming with 2 crying kids. And I said, Lord, where is the strength and where is the peace that you promise your people?
Good evening, everyone. It's like a horror movie that is all too real.
The sigh of relief some felt over the weekend when we thought the red had crested in Fargo is now being replaced by concern and in some cases fear.
It's absolutely unbelievable how much water is out here at Lake Traverse. It's like 2 oceans separated only by the White Rock Dam. Now the reservoir has reached the maximum height of 892, and that has forced the Corps to release as much water as it can. It's a scene that sends chills for anyone living along the Red River and its tributaries. In the past, the Corps has been able to hold this water back long enough so that it would not threaten communities along the Red. That is not the case this year. Lake Traverse has reached its capacity much sooner than anyone thought, forcing the Corps to open the dam. The Corps says, out of concern over the safety of the White Rock Dam, it has no choice but to release the maximum 6,500 cubic feet per second. Not only will those in the Red River Basin be forced to deal with Lake Traverse water, but also this, huge amounts of water from area fields. At the Tyler Bridge, 8 miles south of Wahpeton, a river of water flows to the north. No one in this area has ever seen water like this. Larry Bernard is one of the many trying to deal with all this water. It's jumped its banks and is blasting its way through Bernard's house. Shortly after we arrived by boat, part of a huge snowbank broke off, creating a wave of water. It came crashing over the dike and toppled a liquid propane tank. The tank was eventually secured, but it was just another crisis during a day filled with crises. The Bernards say they won't give up.
We've never experienced water coming over banks like this. I didn't take out flood insurance consequently, and it really looks like it's going to be a battle for a long time because the water that's banked up down south they're going to keep releasing.
Why did you decide to go that high, and how long will that last, those heavy releases?
The Lake Traverse pool is still rising, and we got to maintain our maximum pool level so we don't, in jeopardy the integrity of the structure. And right now it looks like it's going to be about a week at these discharges to bring that lake level down. It takes 2 days for this stuff to get to Wahpeton and Breckenridge. That stuff that we did discharge on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday should be getting through Wahpeton now, and this stuff will be coming, in the next day or so.
For the second time in less than 9 days, more flooding down there in Breckenridge. Some homeowners were in a state of shock. How could lightning strike twice in the same place?
All hell broke loose. And now we're getting it from the Boise Sioux River, which is right behind us. And this morning it was only 4 inches from flood stage. And to me, that's the highest it's ever been here. And now it's running in my yard, in front of the house, on the side, and behind the house.
We've been watching the waters, and when it crested the first time, it got within probably 4 feet of the house. And this morning it came in a thunder.
Spillage from the Bois de Sioux and nearby fields engulfed this area. The outpouring of response in the Wahpeton-Breckenridge area was impressive and heartwarming.
And there is a lot of people there, I have to really say thanks, that has got homes their own self that are flooded, and they're out here helping us. I really appreciate it. It brings tears to you.
It's not real good. What I'd like to do is go out and get out of here, but that's an impossibility. I mean, there's a lot of other people that need to help besides ourselves, and you can't just walk away.
And nearly everyone we talk to down here is saying, look out, Fargo, it's on the way.
Hopefully we have some time between the time that water reaches us and we can get rid of some of our water here. We still need some time to deal. Right now we're dealing with today's situation and the new forecast that came out about 5 o'clock this afternoon.
What's that forecast say?
That we can expect, a ½ foot to 3/4 foot rise from present levels by sometime tomorrow morning. Our advice right now to the public is that you need at least 1.5 feet between the river, as you see it right now, to the top of your dikes. But there is a lot of water between I-94 and Highway 46, between the Cheyenne and the Red River, probably somewhere between 40 and 50 sections of land that have water on them that is draining into either the Wild Rice or Drain 27 right now, and that's our major concern right now. I know everybody's tired, exhausted, and very fragile out there, but we're still ahead of the game. We haven't lost yet like some of these towns have. There's a lot of devastation down along the stream. We saw a lot of farms, a lot of homes along the river outside the city limits. Yes, they've already lost the battle. We're still ahead.
The situation appears to be getting worse north of Fargo. Many homes are surrounded by water as the rivers are rapidly rising.
The fury of the Red River comes with a powerful punch. Water is everywhere. It looks like a huge lake. The reality is many homeowners are trapped inside with the raging red all around them.
We've kind of just standing as guard here to kind of watch if we need an evacuation of some of our friends and neighbors down closer to the river.
Good evening. I'm Austin Shower, live in Breckenridge. A devastating day for this community. Hundreds of people are evacuated as the flood claims the south end of town.
I'm Najla Amundsen, live at River Oaks Point Drive in South Moorhead, where the homes here are no longer on the red, they are in it.
The Red River in Fargo-Moorhead is at this hour standing at 38.14 feet. The National Weather Service says it may rise to 39 feet by Thursday. Breckenridge's worst nightmare has become reality. After suffering through a flood, ice storm, and blizzard 10 days ago, another flood has happened. This one even worse than the first.
It is a powerless feeling. Over the night, the rise of the Bois de Sioux River, along with field runoff and record releases at Lake Traverse, swallowed the south end of Breckenridge. The Coast Guard, using National Guard trucks, began taking people from their homes one at a time. The floodwaters have reached as high as 6 feet in some spots, 5 feet throughout much of this area. The biggest concern for the community was safely getting the 40 elderly residents out of York Manor. With energy some did not know they had, they slowly climbed a 6-foot ladder to find safety in a flatbed truck.
Well, I had intended to ride it out, but I don't know. When the heat goes up and the food is cold, then I think it's time to go.
I'm kind of numb. I'm not sure what's going on. This is the second time we've been evacuated, so I don't know.
I really don't know. I worked all night, and I'm kind of tired, and
we're set. Let's go.
A little bit confounded.
As nerve-wracking as this would be for some, one of the older residents, 92-year-old Esther Urang, wasn't upset at all.
It's kind of fun in a way.
I was evacuated last week, too, or 2 weeks ago in the first one.
I've been back here twice.
Yep.
3 times.
Well, you're probably past your 39th birthday. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
Never.
But we're making it. That's the best thing. And we're going to make it all the way, believe me.
On a bitter, cold, and sunless day, in the middle of April, on tax day no less, the people of Breckenridge suffer through the worst flood of the century. Still, the spirit of this community refuses to be crushed, standing tall in pride and faith, knowing better days are ahead.
I've never seen anything like that. I've lived in this town for 35 years. My daughter lived in my home. That's gone. That went in the first flood. It's heartbreaking is what it is. But you just keep faith in the Lord and say, we'll make it.
Nobody likes to lose their home. Nobody likes to leave their environment where they feel safe and where their family is. And I've cried more than once when I see this happen. And when the people started coming out of York Manor this morning, it was tough.
The real test for both of these communities may come tomorrow. That's when the record release from Lake Traverse will hit this area.
Well, some serious concerns at Fargo's 2nd Street dike this afternoon. Around 1 o'clock, workers noticed that water was leaking under the levee in one area, caused by the high river levels. Northern Improvement was quickly called in to build a containment dike around the area. Crews were able to deal with the leak, but it may not be the last one.
Anytime you have water coming through from the riverside to the backside of a levee, it's a pretty serious situation. So, oh yeah, any one of these, even the small ones that we haven't taken any action on, we're monitoring closely.
Failures are going to continue to happen when we're under siege this long. things are going to happen, and they're continuing to happen all across the city, so we have to just deal with them as they occur.
And there are new concerns tonight about water flowing overland from the Cheyenne River near Horace. Water from the Cheyenne has been entering the Wild Rice River Basin, flowing over several roads. These breakouts are causing extensive overland flooding. Fargo officials are concerned that the water will be heading to the Red River, and that will complicate things in the city. John, the forecast, the flood forecast, doesn't say anything about a crest. It says the river will rise to 39 feet. Why don't they say something about the crest?
All right, that's a good question, Marvin. Here's what's
Okay.
going on. All this overland flooding is making crest prediction very, very complicated. There just aren't any river gauges out in the middle of wheat fields, so the National Weather Service is currently watching 2 Red River crests at this time. One expected to reach Fargo-Moorhead sometime Thursday, and another record crest expected to reach Wapton and Breckenridge at about the same time. Now, water at Breckenridge typically takes about 5 days to reach the Fargo area. So, does this mean there will be another crest in the Fargo-Moorhead area sometime next week? The answer is maybe. It is possible that the current overland flooding will have a chance to recede before the next wave approaches from the Wappinan area, in which case next week's crest might not be quite as high. On the other hand, it might. All the overland water is making the ultimate crest prediction for the Fargo-Moorhead area impossible at this time. The bottom line is we will continue to face high water through the weekend and into next week.
I'm at River Oaks Point Drive in South Moorhead, and Marv, I think the picture here pretty much tells the story. This is what this neighborhood has been dealing with actually for the last 2 weeks. The river completely surrounding homes in this neighborhood. Bob Johnson has a break in his dike, and he doesn't know how much longer he can hold the water back.
We have a break in the earthen dike, and so we're in big time trouble right now. It's eroded over here, and when it goes, out we go.
In Oakport Township, north of Moorhead, the situation has also gone from bad to worse.
The water came up so quickly in some parts of Oakport Township today that homeowners had to call for the Coast Guard and Sheriff's Department to come and evacuate them. Homes have been lost to the flood. Others are trying to save what they can. This is a battle these people will not stand to lose. Some will not leave.
Just the worry factor. I guess it's better to know where you sit, even if it's bad, than sitting down and not know where you're sitting.
Children who are witnessing history take the cold, long ride in a boat, leaving their homes behind. At this point, no one knows what to expect.
At South University Drive beyond 40th Avenue, Fargo crews are hastily constructing a dike and have closed off the area. The water is practically at the road already, and with the river expected to rise another 6 inches, the dike has become a necessity.
As you can hear and also see behind me, heavy equipment has moved into downtown Fargo, putting up a dike first on 1st Avenue North, which is on my right, and on my left they'll be swinging around near City Hall and moving on past Centennial Hall attached to the Civic there. And this happened all this afternoon after some concerns when the 2nd Street dike developed some problems. The concern started late this afternoon when workers noticed water was leaking under the levee on 2nd Street. Extra clay was brought in, and as a precaution tonight, the city has decided to go all night long building the dike past City Hall. A brief update on what's happening downtown here.
Well, we had a serious problem here this afternoon, and we have temporarily resolved it. We don't have a lot of faith at the present time in the rest of the dike down here, so we're putting up a secondary containment dike a little higher ground here. The water is really high. As of right now, we just hit our 100-year flood at 38.3 on the adjusted gauge, so that's the right number now. We're at 38.3. We expect the river to go up about 4 to 9 more inches, and we're in new ground now. Nobody's seen it in this century. I think we can handle what's coming from us from the south if we can just get this out of here a little bit and get a little breathing room. But what it's going to do is create the siege, extend the siege a little bit longer.
The National Weather Service late today said the Red River in Fargo-Moorhead will crest at 39.5 feet sometime Saturday or Sunday. But first, new flooding concerns tonight hit South Fargo.
Runoff from the Wild Rice River was flowing fast and heading towards several neighborhoods.
Marvin Naja, this problem came out of nowhere, has forced an awful lot of people to start scrambling, start sandbagging. It has been a very, very anxious, difficult time for city officials and for residents of this area. Water started flowing across Interstate 29 north of the Horace Interchange. It's water that has caused a great deal of fear and concern from Fargo City officials because it's runoff from the Wild Rice River heading north, right to several South Fargo neighborhoods. So city crews quickly scrambled into action, rapidly building or redoing levees in the affected areas of Oak Creek, Rose Creek, Meadow Creek, Copperfield Court, Timberline, and Fox Run.
It's serious. We're going to have water on residential streets here for the first time in this whole floodplain. Our biggest concern on the south side right now is this overland flooding. And we're in new ground right now. We've already exceeded our 100-year flood. We're approaching our 500-year flood. This is something nobody's ever seen before.
In North Fargo, an earthen dike is being constructed to protect residents near Woodland Drive now. The dike was the subject of some controversy since it's being built to the west of some homes. That means homes to the east are on their own against the river.
This dike being built on the west side of Woodland Drive will protect homeowners if backyard dikes along the river fail.
If the water gets out here, not only does it flood homes, but it gets into the sewer and the drain system, which then really does jeopardize the town. And that made sense to me. I don't think it would be fair for these homes to create that kind of havoc to the whole north side of Fargo.
Despite the river getting closer by the minute and an earthen dike that isn't doing them much good, Hansen says they won't be discouraged.
But we're not saying that this thing is going. I mean, we're staying very up. We're going to build this thing up emotionally and get the right frame of mind and say we're going to make this thing work.
And some discouraging news to report tonight from White Rock Dam at Lake Traverse near Wheaton, Minnesota. The Corps of Engineers says it has increased its releases from 6,500 cubic feet per second to 7,000 CFS. That is a new record. The resource manager for the Lake Traverse project, Dave Salberg, says the reservoir is still above its maximum storage level and the pool is rising. Salberg says he expects the release of 7,000 CFS to continue for about 1 week.
With the water creeping ever so close to the top of the sandbag dikes, homeowners along South Moorhead's Rivershore Drive say it's time to reinforce their safety net. As usual, the key to this sandbagging and diking effort is the volunteers. Volunteers who have come from miles around just to lend a hand.
I feel good helping the community because I know what it's like, because we've had water before, and I feel good helping the community basically, and it's fun.
There's a lot of people that have worked a lot harder than I have on this project. Thankfully so. You know, everybody seems like they've got more to give, and it's just amazing. Just something new that you don't see. You know, you don't see this hardly. Probably once or twice in a lifetime. Hopefully no more than that.
The shallow but massive Land River south of town continues its mission northward, determined to overtake anything and everything in its path. Rose Coulee is full and some new dikes have broken, so the angry water has been rushing into the Timberline and Fox Run additions. For now, the water is just too strong for a fair fight for some, and a rubber raft is the only way to escape.
I never thought it'd happen. I never. My husband's been a nervous wreck for weeks, and I never thought it would happen. But I couldn't stand watching the water just pour in that finished basement. So we got the boat out and left.
Guy came in with a front-end loader, put my suitcases in the front of it. I climbed in and just came out with him. I said, this is ludicrous. I'm getting out of here while I can. About 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to move in next week. I came up for the weekend to be with my husband and to do get some stuff ready to move in. A bad feeling yesterday on the airplane all day. Now I know why.
The water continues to rise here. It's risen about a foot in the last 24 hours. It's also a hubbub of activity here. Lots of volunteers going back and forth over the water. They go via canoe, they go via payloader, any way they can get there. Through it all, the city is watching it all very, very closely. The city of Fargo is sparing no expense in its effort to hold back the water.
But they'll continue as long as necessary to solve the problem. I've talked to people out there on the dikes, and they have told me they are not going to let those dikes fail. They'll work until they can't work anymore. You know, so if we do lose this thing, we're losing going down fighting. We're not going to quit.
I was told we've had over 10,000 different individuals volunteer their services, and I don't know how accurate that number is, but whatever it is, it's a large, large number, and a lot of them have been kids, college kids, high school kids, kids from all over, and we couldn't have done it without them.
and I guess it still remains to be seen if we get through this, but we couldn't be where we're at today without them.
We're holding firm, and a lot of people are holding firm. Some have lost their battle, but overall, we're hanging in there, and we're gonna defeat this river yet.
Some anxious moments in Grand Forks this afternoon when a crack developed in one of the major dikes in the city. Some residents along the Lincoln Park area of Grand Forks were told that they might want to leave their homes while engineers work to correct what some called small cracks in the dike. Fire Captain Vince Liddy said it was not a break. The National Weather Service has raised its crest forecast for the red in Grand Forks to between 50.5 and 51.5 feet tomorrow or Saturday. That would be a record for that city.
This is Kevin Walvin reporting live in North Fargo. A dramatic story near Oak Grove tonight. A break in a dike has forced the evacuation of many here.
It is what most people have been fearing.
A dike breaks tonight near Oak Grove High School, sending water everywhere through the neighborhood.
Water from the flooding red broke through an earthen dike on Oak Grove's southeastern side, and the tidal wave spilled over into dozens of homes in the neighborhood.
I was shoveling sand into a pile in the driveway, and I seen these people running at me saying, get out of here. I've never seen people run like that in my life.
Several lost their homes tonight, and after fighting day and night for 2 weeks to save their house, homeowners could not hold back the emotion of this defeat.
It's just devastating. Our neighbors, we've all just become like family. We've just gone back and forth and helped each other when we've needed it and just been there for each other, and to see our just neighborhood go down.
On boulevards, all some could do is comfort each other. In a memorable snapshot from this flood, the urgent call for volunteers resulted in hundreds lining the sidewalks in a massive flood fighting effort. Those who lost the battle tonight are wondering how long the river will continue to play this devastating, dangerous game.
Well, right now the Red River at Fargo stands at 39.5 feet. It is continuing a very slow rise. It's only gone up an inch since noon, a sign the river may be leveling off.
This is southwest Fargo. You can see I-29 over there on the right-hand side of your screen. This area includes the Fox Run and Timberline neighborhoods. We were able to go in for a closer look, and you can see that the homes are completely surrounded. As we follow the winding red south, we come to Chris Ann Estates in Briarwood. It's more of the same. You can see some of the residents still winning and some that have lost. County roads just south of Fargo that lead to nowhere. You're looking at the Red River just north of the Yumcum Center, and we're facing the North Dakota side. And take a look at I-29 north of Fargo-Moorhead. And as we look north toward Grand Forks, an idea of what lies ahead for the people there.
What I have today is some information of extreme seriousness. We would like to ask all citizens in the area, really, particularly Fargo, to listen carefully and calmly before they react.
A dramatic announcement from Fargo City officials this afternoon. A plan, as Mayor Bruce Furness put it, designed to stop water that could flood all of Fargo, like the devastating flood of 1897.
The city says they have between 48 and 72 hours to get this dike built. It's a wall that will keep the overland flooding from coming. They say about 50 sections of water are here south of Fargo and coming this way. The dike will eventually cross Interstate 29 and meet up with 38th Avenue Southwest, trailing south slightly to 40th Avenue Southwest behind Centennial School, and follow Rose Creek Drive until it meets up again with 40th Avenue Southwest and makes its way toward the river.
We've got a situation that we've got 48 or 50 sections of water 1 to 2 to 3 feet high rolling down at us. And of course you've seen what happened in Grand Forks, and we're just trying to prevent that.
Living in this neighborhood, you need to evacuate. You need to evacuate this area.
Early this morning, Grand Forks officials changed yesterday's voluntary evacuation into a must.
And that's just eerie to have sirens going off and fire engines and police cars running up and driving up and down your street saying, let's get out now.
Our focus right now is on the southwest part of the city. And that will continue to be a very serious situation. We've contained it for 48 hours, and we'll continue to try. But it's going to be difficult for the next period of time.
There is an eerie calm in the Oak Grove neighborhood today. Homes are deserted, surrounded by that sea of water that inundated the Oak Grove neighborhood after an earthen dike broke near the school. We have waited all winter for a warm spring day like this one, but it's different when you're walking through your neighborhood in hip boots, greeting your friends who are going by you using paddles.
This is Grand Forks, East Grand Forks.
The evacuation of the city intensified today as flooding now covers at least 1/3 of Grand Forks. To make matters worse, a huge fire broke out in Grand Forks late this afternoon.
As you can see at this point, the building fully engulfed in flames at this point, and the heat and the intensity of the fire was so strong that even from a block away, we could feel the flames from where we were standing at.
That's good, Keith. With so much water stretching so far to the south and west, those in Greenfields and other developments south of the new dike know they could be the sacrificial lambs. Greenfields is not alone, of course. Hundreds tonight are waging a battle to save their homes. And the grim irony of it all may be, the water is going any and every which way it wants.
Our hearts and prayers go out to the people of Grand Forks. It was just terrible looking at that. That's exactly what we're trying to prevent here, and that's why we're working so frantically.
Water has backed up on the west side of 81, flooding several south side developments. So tonight, crews begin hammering 81, preparing to bleed off some of the floodwaters.
It is devastation beyond belief. Street after street, house after house, business after business, Grand Forks and East Grand Forks swallowed up by a 54-foot river.
There's no more sandbagging now. There's no more diking. We did our work. We tried our best. Mother Nature beat us. Let's move forward. Let's do what we can to restore the community.
How do you put it all back together? We just don't know. I mean, we have nothing to go home to now. And it's really hard.
On a more pleasant note tonight, the flooding situation looks a little brighter in Fargo right now.
City officials are still keeping their guard up, but city residents are feeling more confident.
Pretty promising. I think the way everything is going, the way everything pulled together down here, community effort on the dikes, and the Army Corps has really done a darn nice job. Really looks good. I think we're going to pull through it.
There is still a lot of water southwest of Fargo, and it is still a big concern. But every day that goes by without a major problem is just that. Another day ahead of the game in this unpredictable battle.
Mayville State University has been transformed from a college to a flood relief center. The school has shut down to do anything it can for its suffering guests from Grand Forks.
What we've been saying is we cannot make it right, but by gosh, we can make it better. And so we're doing everything we can to make it better, but in our hearts we so wish we could make it right.
It's my brother who's not having it. We will rebuild, and we will be much stronger. And President Clinton, you give us hope. You are a bright star right now within our community. And I believe within our communities, the people that have lost their homes, possibly lost their business and all their possessions, have had a tear in their eye and wiped it and went on to help the other people within the community.
We have hardly ever seen such a remarkable demonstration of courage and commitment and cooperation and basic human strength, and we are very impressed and proud to be Americans when we see what you have done in the face of this terrible disaster. What makes a community a place to live in is not the buildings, it's the people, the spirit and faith that are in those people.
Water cannot wash that away, and fire cannot burn that away, and a blizzard cannot freeze that away. And if you don't give it away, it will bring you back better than ever.
Although the cleanup will continue for quite some time, the spirits of the people in the valley remain undaunted.
The hope, courage, and determination you have shown during Flood of '97 has impressed the nation.
From all of us at News Center 6, thank you.